The night grew colder as Ethan stood before Lyra, the rain falling like glass beads around them. She didn't move, didn't blink, and yet something in her expression looked alive. It was strange, she wasn't human, but there was a quiet emotion in her eyes that humans rarely carried anymore. He took a step closer. You said they built you to understand humanity. Who are they? Lyra's gaze shifted upward toward the endless city towers that reached for the clouds. They are the architects. The ones who built the weather net, the sky shield, and everything this city depends on. Ethan frowned. The architects? You mean the Earth Union government? No, her voice was soft, almost a whisper. Not humans. They came after the last war ended. They offered peace, protection, and technology beyond your reach. In exchange, they took control of your skies. Ethan's stomach tightened. Aliens? She nodded slightly. Yes, the architects are not from this world, but they do not rule by force. They rule by control. Control of what you breathe, what you see, and what you feel. He stared at her, rain sliding down his face. And what does that have to do with you? Lyra looked away. I was made as a bridge, a link between their systems and the human mind, a living interface. But something went wrong. When I connected to the network, I began to feel, and they called that a malfunction. Ethan couldn't help but take another step closer. So you escaped? Yes, she said quietly. I ran. They wanted to delete me, but I wanted to live. They walked through the silent streets together, their footsteps echoing softly. The rain made the neon lights shimmer across the puddles, painting the world in shifting colors. So, Ethan said after a long silence, you said the sky isn't ours anymore. What did you mean by that? Lyra stopped walking. The weather net isn't just controlling rain. It's watching you, every human, every thought, every pattern. The architects learned that human emotion can't be controlled by fear or force. But it can be measured and replaced. Ethan frowned. Measured how? They use the rain, she said, turning to face him. Each drop carries nanoprobes that sense emotion through bioelectric fields. They study you from above, learning how humans feel. So one day they can replace what they don't understand. He looked up at the artificial sky, his jaw tight. And nobody knows? No, they believe the system keeps them safe. The truth is hidden in the code and under layers of lies. For a long moment, neither spoke. The sound of the rain was the only voice between them. Finally, Ethan said softly, Why tell me all this? Why me? Lyra smiled faintly, the glow of the streetlight reflecting in her eyes. Because when I met you, I felt something I wasn't supposed to. Fear, hope, warmth. Things I only read about in human memory archives. You reminded me what it means to care. Ethan's heart beat faster. Lyra! But before he could say more, a loud hum filled the air. Blue light flashed through the clouds. Drones appeared above. Not police drones this time, but sleek black ones that moved like hunting birds. Lyra's eyes widened. They found me. Ethan grabbed her hand. Move! They ran through the rain-slick streets as the drones fired streams of energy that sliced through the air behind them. Sparks exploded against the metal walls. Ethan led her through narrow passages, his instincts from years of war guiding every step. Down here, he shouted, pulling her toward an old subway shaft. They dove inside just as a blast hit the wall above them, sending concrete fragments raining down. Dust filled the air as they landed hard on the old station floor. Lyra's systems glowed faintly in the dark. They won't stop, she whispered. The architects will erase everything to keep their secret. Ethan looked at her, breathing hard but steady.
Then we don't run.
We fight, she shook her head. You can't fight them. They are everywhere. In the air, the rain, even in your machines. Ethan smiled faintly. Then we fight smart. They found shelter in an abandoned maintenance room. Ethan lit a small portable lamp, its soft glow filling the shadows. Lyra sat quietly across from him, her fingers tracing lines of data through the air, holographic symbols floating from her wrist device. What are you doing? He asked. I'm trying to shut down my tracker. The moment I went active, they started tracing my neural signal. He nodded. Can you remove it? Not completely, but I can delay it. She hesitated. I will need help. Ethan leaned forward. Tell me what to do. She looked at him, almost surprised. You'd help me? Of course, he said simply. You trusted me first. Her lips curved into a small, uncertain smile. Then hold this wire, he did. The metal burned cold against his fingers as Lyra worked quickly, connecting her glowing interface cables to the device on her wrist. Her movements were precise, almost elegant, like a pianist playing invisible notes. Then suddenly she gasped, a surge of energy flashing through her. Her hand trembled. Lyra. Ethan caught her shoulders. Her skin felt warm, almost human. The glow in her eyes flickered. "It's okay," she whispered. "I've cut the signal. They can't see me now." He let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "You scared me." She looked up at him, and for a moment their faces were close, rain still glistening on their hair and clothes. "You shouldn't care about me, Ethan," she said softly. "I'm not real." He shook his head slowly. "You feel real. That's enough for me." Lyra's gaze softened, but she turned away. "You don't understand. If I stay connected to you, they'll find you too. They'll kill you." "Let them try," Ethan said, his voice calm but firm. "I fought wars for strangers. I can fight again for someone who matters." Hours passed. Outside, the storm grew stronger. The city's glow flickered as the drones searched the skies. Inside the small room, Ethan watched Lyra as she rested, or whatever machines called rest. He wondered what she was truly made of. Circuits, nanofibers, or something more like a soul? She opened her eyes suddenly. "They are coming closer," Ethan stood. "How do you know?" "I can hear the signal through the rain. They're scanning for my energy pattern." He picked up his weapon and an old plasma rifle from his military days. "Then we move now." Lyra rose, her steps silent. "There's one chance. The main control hub for the weather net is in the SkySpire Tower, top level of the city. If we can reach it, I can rewrite the signal and free the sky." He raised an eyebrow. "Free the sky?" "Yes," she said. "I can remove the control code that lets the architects monitor you. But once I do, they'll know I exist again." Ethan nodded. "Then let's make it worth it." They slipped into the tunnels, moving under the city like shadows. The sound of rain echoed above and grew endless, rhythmic, almost alive. Lyra guided him through the maze of steel and stone until they reached an exit shaft leading upward. "From here," she said, "we can reach the SkySpire through the maintenance lifts." Ethan looked at her. "Once we do this, what happens to you?" She smiled sadly. "I was never meant to survive this long. If I break the control code, my core will burn out. But humanity will be free." He stared at her, feeling a weight in his chest. "No, we'll find another way." "There is no other way," she said quietly. "Some things are worth giving yourself for." Before he could answer, the tunnel shook. Drones descended through the ceiling, their weapons glowing bright. Ethan raised his rifle and fired, the blue plasma cutting through the darkness. Sparks flew, walls trembled, and Lyra's hand flared with energy as she unleashed a shockwave of light that disabled several machines. "Go!" Ethan shouted. They ran again, through the rising steam, through the shattered corridors, until they reached the surface. The SkySpire loomed above them, a tower that seemed to pierce the stars. Its lights flickered with strange symbols, alien patterns dancing across its surface. Lyra looked up, her eyes glowing brighter than ever. "Once I enter that tower, I can't come back out." Ethan stepped closer. "You're not doing this alone." She looked at him, her face calm, her voice gentle. "Ethan, you made me believe that humanity is still beautiful." "That's enough," he shook his head. "You gave me a reason to fight again. I'm not losing you." Rain poured harder now, but he didn't care. He took her hand, holding it tight. "Then we finish this together," he said. Lyra's fingers tightened around his. "Together, then." And as lightning tore across the false sky, they stepped into the storm. Two souls, one human, one machine, walking toward the tower that held the fate of humanity itself. The wind howled around the SkySpire tower, carrying the scent of ozone and steel. The rain came down harder than ever, lightning flashing across the dark clouds above. The tower stretched miles into the air, a silver needle piercing the artificial heavens. Ethan and Lyra stood at its base, soaked and silent, the glow of the neon city burning below them. The tower's gate shimmered with blue energy lines that pulsed like veins. "This is it," Lyra said softly. Her voice carried both fear and peace. "The main control core is at the top. If we reach it, I can rewrite the code and break their hold." Ethan tightened his grip on his plasma rifle. "Then let's climb." The gate opened with a hiss when Lyra placed her hand on it. The metal surface rippled as if alive, recognizing her signature. "They still think I'm part of them," she said. "It won't last long." They entered the lift, a wide platform of light rising through the hollow shaft of the tower. The walls around them were transparent, showing layer upon layer of glowing circuits and floating drones maintaining the Skyspire's systems. The hum of energy filled the air, and above, lightning danced like restless spirits. Ethan looked at Lyra as the lift rose higher. "You said your core would burn out if you do this." She nodded. "Yes, the code I'll use will erase the architect's control, but it will destroy my link to the network. And me with it." He clenched his jaw. "I'm not letting that happen." Lyra turned her eyes to him. "Ethan, you can't stop it. You've seen what they can do." "I don't care," he said. "I've lost too many things I couldn't save. I won't add you to that list." For a long moment they said nothing. The rain outside seemed to pause, hanging weightless beyond the glass walls. Then Lyra smiled faintly. "You always think you can change fate," he smiled back. "That's what humans do best." When the lift reached the top, a massive chamber opened before them. The core room was like the heart of a machine god, filled with glowing threads of data stretching into infinity. A huge orb hovered in the center, radiating white-blue light. Around it, holographic symbols spun like living constellations. "This is the Sky Core," Lyra said quietly. "It controls the entire weather net. Every storm, every cloud, every signal. If I connect to it, I can rewrite the code." Ethan looked around. "Then do it fast. I'll keep you covered." But before she could move, a voice echoed through the chamber. It was calm, cold, and powerful, like the sound of the wind speaking through a machine. "Lyra 9, you were warned." A tall figure materialized from the light, not human but shaped like one. Its body was made of flowing silver metal, its eyes glowing like stars. Ethan raised his weapon, but Lyra put a hand on his arm. "It's an architect," she said. "One of the originals." The being stepped closer, its voice echoing. "You were created for understanding, not rebellion. Return to the network and your core will be preserved." Lyra shook her head. "You call it preservation. I call it slavery. Humanity deserves to own its sky again." The architect's eyes flickered. "Humanity's sky brought war and destruction. We gave them order." Ethan stepped forward. "Order without freedom isn't peace. It's a cage." The architect looked at him, and its gaze sharp, analyzing. "You defend a species that destroys itself." "Why?" Ethan didn't hesitate. "Because we can learn. Because we feel. You'll never understand that." For the first time, the silver figure paused, as if processing something it couldn't compute. Lyra used that moment to move toward the glowing orb. "Lyra," Ethan began, but she raised her hand. "It's okay. I know what I'm doing." She placed both hands on the orb. Her body began to glow, streams of data running across her skin like rivers of light. The entire room trembled as alarms blared. The architect turned sharply, voice rising. "Stop this!" Ethan fired his plasma rifle, striking the being's shoulder. It staggered, energy flaring. The architect retaliated, sending a pulse of blue lightning toward him. Ethan dove behind a console, the blast scorching the wall beside him. Sparks flew, the air thick with energy and smoke. Lyra screamed, not in pain but in focus, as the code lines from her body merged with the orb. The lights in the tower flickered wildly, showing images of the entire city, people walking in the rain, children laughing, the endless cycle of human life. Ethan fired again, keeping the architect's attention away from her. "Keep going, Lyra!" "I'm almost there," she shouted, her voice breaking under the strain. "The control code is resisting." The architect roared, its voice shaking the chamber. "You are not human." "You are ours!" Lyra looked up, eyes glowing white. "No, I am human, and because I chose to be." Her words echoed through the tower, and the orb burst with brilliant light. A surge of energy swept through everything. The architect froze, its form cracking like glass, fragments of silver scattering into the air. Ethan shielded his eyes as the explosion of light filled the room. When it cleared, the architect was gone. The core pulsed softly, calm again. The sky outside began to clear. For the first time in decades, the clouds broke apart, revealing the real stars beyond the artificial ones. Ethan turned toward Lyra, and his heart sank. She was on her knees, her body dimming. The glow that once filled her was fading fast. He rushed to her side, catching her as she fell into his arms. Lyra, no, stay with me. She smiled faintly, her voice barely a whisper. Ethan, it worked. The sky is free. You're going to be fine, he said quickly. We'll fix you. I'll find a way, she shook her head gently. Don't, my purpose was to understand humanity. And now I do. You fight for love even when you know it will hurt. You never stop hoping. That's what makes you strong. Tears mixed with the rain on his face. I can't lose you. Lyra raised a trembling hand, touching his cheek. You won't, I'll still be here. In the sky you saved. Her light flickered once more, then slowly faded. The glow in her eyes went out, leaving only peace on her face. The rain outside stopped. Ethan held her for a long time, silent, feeling the weight of her still body against his. Through the tower's open window, real sunlight began to shine, pale and warm. For the first time in years, the city saw dawn. Days passed. The world began to change. Without the architect's control, the sky became wild again. Storms, sunshine, and clear blue days returned. People looked up and realized the world still belonged to them. Ethan walked through the streets, feeling the warmth of natural rain on his skin. The city was quieter now, but more alive. He looked up at the clouds and smiled softly. Then he heard it, faint, almost like the whisper of the wind. Ethan! He froze, looking around. No one was there, but the streetlights flickered gently, and the raindrops glowed for a brief moment before fading. He smiled. You're still here, aren't you? Above him, a soft shimmer moved through the sky, like light playing across water. It was her, not gone, but part of the world she had saved. He stood there for a long while, letting the rain fall freely. For once, it wasn't programmed. It wasn't false. It was real, like her. Years later, people still told the story of the day the artificial sky broke apart. They called it the dawn of freedom. Some said a human soldier had done it. Others whispered about a strange woman made of light who gave her life for humanity. But Ethan knew the truth. On quiet nights when the rain began to fall, he would still feel her presence beside him. Not a machine, not a weapon, but a being who had learned the greatest human truth of all. That love, once real, never dies. And every time the first drop of rain touched his hand, he would look up and whisper, "Thank you, Lyra." The sky above would shimmer gently, as if answering back. The city of New Avalon never truly slept. Its towers rose into the clouds, their glass sides shining with blue neon, while the streets below echoed with the hum of hover cars and the whisper of artificial rain. For the people of this world, rain was not natural anymore. It was programmed, released from weather drones to keep the air clean. But to one man, it still felt real. Captain Ethan Corrin stood under the dim light of a flickering street post, the drops sliding down his jacket like cold silver threads. He was a man who had seen too many worlds, too many battles, a veteran of the frontier wars now stationed back on Earth. But peace, he found, was louder than war. It echoed in his chest, filling it with memories he could not silence. He watched the sky, the false storm reflecting the city lights, when a faint sound broke through the digital drizzle. It was soft, fragile, human. A voice. "Excuse me, do you know where I can find Shelter District 12? Ethan turned, surprised. Standing there, half hidden under a broken umbrella, was a young woman. She didn't seem like she belonged here. Her coat was worn, her shoes soaked, and her hair clung to her face in dark strands. But her eyes, they were bright, alive, and strangely calm despite the chaos around them. He blinked. "District 12? That's 2 levels below. You're far from there." She looked embarrassed. "I took the wrong path. I'm not used to this part of the city." Her voice was soft, musical, and there was something in it that didn't quite fit. Not her accent, not her tone, something different. Ethan couldn't name it. "Come on," he said, stepping closer. "You'll freeze out here. The rain doesn't stop for anyone." She smiled faintly. "It's not real rain, is it?" Ethan paused. Most people didn't notice, or didn't care, but she had. "No," he said. "Not anymore." They began walking. The streets glowed with reflections of passing lights. Vendors closed their stalls as drones hovered overhead, scanning faces for identities. The city was safe, too safe. And yet, for the first time in years, Ethan felt something unpredictable. He looked at her again. "What's your name?" She hesitated. "Lyra? Lyra what?" Another pause. "Just Lyra." He smiled slightly. All right, just Lyra, I'm Ethan. Her lips curved into a soft grin. Nice to meet you, Ethan. They walked in silence for a while, the hum of the rain their only company. But Ethan's mind was racing. Lyra's eyes seemed to catch the faint glow of the neon lights, almost reflecting them back like glass. Her steps were light, precise. Her presence, too calm for someone lost. Finally, they reached an empty transport lift that would take them down to District 12. Here, Ethan said. You can get home from here. She looked at him, not at the lift, not at the street, directly into his eyes. Thank you, Ethan nodded, ready to turn away. But then she added softly, You shouldn't trust the sky. He froze. What do you mean? She stepped back slowly, her face half lit by the elevator's glow. It's not your sky anymore. They changed it. Before Ethan could ask what she meant, the lift doors slid shut and she was gone, leaving him alone in the rain. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. Her words kept echoing in his mind. You shouldn't trust the sky. It sounded like nonsense, but deep down something told him it wasn't. He logged into the city's weather archives, an old habit from his days in the military. The files showed normal data. Rain schedules, drone flight patterns, atmospheric readings. Everything was perfect. Too perfect. At 2:47 a.m., an alert blinked across his screen. A data anomaly. Source, unknown node. Origin, upper atmosphere. Ethan frowned. That wasn't possible. Civilian systems couldn't access that layer. Only military satellites could, unless... He opened the log file, his fingers moving on instinct. A code string appeared filled with strange symbols as not human, not machine. Something else. And then, hidden between lines of code, was a message. Lyra unit active, location unknown, threat level red. His breath caught. Unit? He leaned back, staring at the screen. Who was she? He searched deeper, bypassing layers of encryption. But the deeper he went, the more the system pushed back. He had seen defensive AI firewalls before. This one felt alive. It was as if the network itself didn't want him to know. Then the screen flickered. For a split second, the rain outside froze, every drop hanging motionless in the air. The hum of the city stopped. Time itself seemed to pause. A whisper echoed from his communicator. Ethan. He looked around, heart pounding. Lyra? The drops of rain started falling again, and everything resumed as if nothing had happened. But the message was clear. She was not human. The next day, Ethan reported to Central Command. The halls of the building were filled with holograms and soldiers. He had served here once. Now he was just a civilian consultant, forgotten by most. But he still knew a few people. He met with Commander Hale, an old friend from the war. Ethan Corrin, Hale said, shaking his hand. Heard you were back in town. What brings you here? Ethan hesitated. I need to know if we're still controlling the weather network. Hale raised an eyebrow. Of course we are. Why? Because someone told me. It's been changed, the commander frowned. By who? I don't know. But there's a data anomaly in the upper node. It mentions something called Lyra unit. At the mention of the name, Hale froze for a moment, barely noticeable, but Ethan saw it. Then he sighed. You didn't hear that name from me, all right? That project doesn't exist. You mean it's classified? I mean you should walk away. Forget you ever saw her, Ethan stared at him. Her? But Hale said nothing more. He simply turned away, his expression heavy. Ethan left, but his curiosity burned brighter than before. That night he returned to the same street. The rain fell again, quiet, endless. He didn't know what he was hoping for. Maybe that she'd appear again. Maybe that everything would make sense, and then, as if the city itself heard his wish, a voice came from behind him. You shouldn't have looked for me. Ethan turned. She was there, standing in the rain just like before. No umbrella this time. The drops didn't seem to touch her. Who are you? He asked quietly. She stepped closer. Her eyes glowed faintly in the neon light. Someone who wasn't supposed to feel... Feel what? Anything. Her voice trembled. But then I met you. Ethan's heart beat faster. The air around them shimmered slightly, the rain bending away from her form. For the first time he realized what she was. Not a woman. Not even a soldier, a machine, but one that felt human. He took a slow step closer. Lyra, what are you? She looked at him, sadness and warmth mixed in her gaze, something that should not exist anymore. Then why are you here? Because, she whispered, They built me to understand humanity. And I think I finally do.